Voila. All right, I'm going to straighten that one out in the vise, and we'll be ready to put this guy together. Well, we're gonna do the little welding now, and this is a MIG welder. There's different types of welders. There's a thing probably most people are familiar with is a stick arc welder, which has a long stick electrode, and you clamp it in this little handle, and you weld with it like that. This is a MIG welder, which you weld with a little tiny fine wire, and the wire's stored in here, and it has like a gun here, and you pull the trigger, and the wire comes out, and it creates the circuit, from the ground, to the ground through the piece. When you weld, like the electrode welder that I talked about before, that is coated with a flux. Here's a brazing rod, and you see the white stuff on here. That's a flux. An electric arc welder rod has the same kind of thing, only it's gray usually, and that's a flux. That's to keep the oxygen from permeating the molten steel. That's what welding is. Welding is you take the rod, and you're melting the rod, and you're melting each of the two pieces of steel that you're welding. So you're actually taking three separate materials, welding them together, melting them, and mixing them together, and that creates a weld. Well, this particular kind of a machine, it has a bottled gas here. This is a argon and CO2, which diffuses the oxygen. So when I pull the trigger, the gas is blown down through this little nozzle thing, and it gets rid of all the oxygen around the weld area. So there's no need for any flux with this. And it's so when you pull the trigger, the wire goes and the gas goes. And then there's different wire speed adjustments and voltage adjustments on the different machines. I'm gonna pull the trigger, and you'll see what happens here. Okay. You can hear the gas. Okay. Now I'm just gonna click it. It'll burn the wire right off. See, the wire is really thin, real thin wire. And that, you can get a lot thinner than that. That's 35 thousandths, but you can get a lot thinner than that. I just like that because I think it makes a nice weld. That's it. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and weld our pieces together here. And I'll tell you what each thing is here as I go. Those are the wings. That's the body. And as I told you, that's a tail, and this is his head. And this goes on top of a little trellis that I make, and you can grow like vining plants and stuff up it. I'll show you when we get all finished here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start to weld this together. When you weld, there's a ton of splatter that comes off. And they're little, super tiny little balls of melting steel. So they bounce on you all the time. Some of them hurt, and a lot of them don't. But it's best to always wear, some kind of protective stuff. This is a fire retardant cloth, arm protector here. And then these are just, I like real fine, thin gloves. They're about worn out. I'm due for a new pair. But I like real nice little thin gloves so I can still grab stuff. Okay. Let's put a head on him first. Okay, now we'll put his tail on. A MIG welder is super easy to run. It's really hard to not get a good weld with a MIG welder. Okay, well, you can see now we've got a head and a body and a tail. Now we'll put some wings on him. Okay. All right, now we've got him to this point. And, but he's really not, he doesn't have enough to him yet. We need to put some antennas on him. And now this is where I go from trying to imitate to just try to emulate. I think if you try to imitate, you want to be precise, and I think it's a lot more fun to take something, if you're gonna do a form of nature, let's say, to try to make it recognizable, but make it different enough that people have to stretch just a little bit. This is a super easy stretch. The big ladybug, that's a little further stretch. There's a snail. That's an even further stretch. But I love that kind of stuff. I think it's fun for people to to use their imaginations like that. Life's pretty boring if you don't get to have a little fun with your imagination. Okay, we're going to put a little tail on him too, so I think I'll do that right now. And we'll weld these two pieces together, and then we'll weld them to him. Kind of like a little stinger or something. I don't think dragonflies really have stingers, but I just like the look of it. And I think dragonflies are very cool bugs in general, because they just have great design. They're just really interesting color and iridescence and stuff like that, plus cool shape. Okay, let's make a couple of stingers here. Okay, and we're just going to pull this around like this till we get around here, and then we'll pull it the other way to get the two lines to line up. Okay, and that'll be his little antennas. The balls are a little bit rusty, so I'm going to scrape a little bit off of there so we make sure we get good electrical contact. Electrical contact won't go through the rust very well at all. Once you get a little clean spot, it'll burn rust off though. Okay, now we're about there. We have to do one more thing to him so he'll fit up on top of that little trellis I was telling you about. We're going to put a little piece of tubing on there. Now we can get a little bit here with this. Let's make him so that he's kind of flying upward. I think that's cooler looking. Okay, there we go. One dragonfly. All right, let's go put him on the trellis and see how he looks. Okay, there we go.